Hey everyone, Marty Sleeve here alongside Steve Butts.
Hey, Marty.
Steve, it's E3.
Oh my gosh.
This is very exciting. We've had a lot of games with explosions and photorealism in the Uncanny Valley, but this is a little bit different. This is Unravel, which we saw during the EA conference, and I think this is one of the biggest surprises of the show so far.
This is definitely one of my favorite games, mostly because it's such an alternative.
Yes.
Right? You know, it's so different. You mentioned photorealism. You know, this game obviously does have very realistic graphics.
Oh yeah, gorgeous.
But there's no fantastical elements in it except for the main character, the character you play, Yarny.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially coming in sort of an EA conference where we expected to see Battlefront and Mirror's Edge and a lot of sports games, and all of a sudden it's this, and it's this little I don't know, it sort of gives off the same vibe as like Child of Light and Valiant Hearts did when it was these games inside massive AAA publishers and developers, but it almost has this like indie spirit to it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way this game gets made at EA by itself. I think this is a game EA sees and says, we want this in our catalog.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's by a small Swedish team, and we got to go hands-on with the game, actually, a little while ago at Judges Week, and right off the get-go, the game has the fact that Yarny, this main character, is made from like actual tangible material immediately brings to mind something like Little Big Planet, which I think is actually sort of fitting because the actual sense of like momentum and inertia in the game feels like Little Big Planet. Where your character sort of has a bit of weight to it, and when you sort of climb over obstacles and you're grabbing onto things and you're holding onto ledges, so it feels a little bit like a combination of LBP and then even Limbo, which I think might be the most apt comparison.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, Limbo I think makes a lot of sense in terms of trying to figure out what this game is like. To be super mundane and pedestrian about it, it's a physics-based platformer.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like Limbo. It's got a little Kirby Epic Yarn. You mentioned it in a couple other games.
Definitely.
It's sort of like, but yeah, that sense of connection to the world is what really struck me. When you're sort of tying your yarn onto these anchor points here, as you get around, like you really feel like, I'm part of this world. This character who is completely bonkers and just crazy is actually really in this world that, without him is totally mundane, totally boring, but beautiful in a way.
And there's nothing scary about this little. I don't know. Is that a gopher? Is that a?
I don't know. We see a lot of.
Is that a mole? I don't know. I don't know a lot about animals, but So the opening, the sort of the cutscene we got to see, which wasn't during the EA conference. It starts off. There's like a grandmother walking up a stairs in an old sort of rickety farmhouse, and she has her basket with her knitting and her crochet materials, and a ball of yarn slips out the back and bounces down the stairs and rolls out the front door, and all of a sudden Yarny stems from that. And all the environments we went to, like you said, it was this grandma's backyard, or it was the street you had to cross, or it was where a puddle became an ocean just because of your size. And a cool thing about the like you said, using sort of your own material as a way to solve puzzles is that you seem to have a finite amount. Like this, there's an actual an amount of string that exists on you, and so if you're using too much, eventually you're gonna have to go back and sort of roll it back up onto you and figure out what to do with it. You see here, you can use it to swing, you can use it to sort of create a taut trampoline. You got a kite here.
You got a kite. Let me show you also something here. There's this little nail that you tie yourself off to, and sort of there are these really cool checkpoints in the game. There are a few places in the game where we just straight up died.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the challenge is, how do you get past this? How do you get to the next screen? How do you get to the next part of this game? And the checkpoints are a really nice way to kind of mark that progress. I also I don't know if this was intentional. Maybe this is a little more poetic than it needs to be, but I love the idea that the other end of that yarn is sort of always out of sight on the left.
Yeah.
There's really, I don't know, there's something about that says something to me about what this game represents, and I just really like that.
Yeah, it's sort of that like you can always follow the string back to like everywhere you've been before and sort of trace your entire journey. And then along the way, you were picking up. There was like little, I think like balls of string you could pick up and sort of add to your body that allowed you to solve more complicated puzzles. But definitely, you see here there is this very sort of melancholy, bleak, somber tone, and that's sort of where the Limbo idea comes in. And it's this little cute thing that shouldn't have to be suffering, it shouldn't have to be pulling this lantern in the middle of a snowstorm. And so I have a feeling this is going to be one of those games where, despite the fact that it, as soon as this appeared, the entire IGN war room went, like, I have a feeling something really sad's going to happen in this game. And like the first 10 minutes of Up, I feel like this is going to be one of those things where, like, how could you do this to us?
Yeah, I mean, this character that you're playing here, there's obviously some kind of motivation for it to keep progressing. I mean, you see this sort of scene that he's in right now. This is pretty bleak, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I kind of wonder how they're going to play on that in the game. Like, what is the ultimate goal of all this?
Yeah, and we didn't get that because, again, like the scenario we played, it's sort of just, look at this,
yeah, see, look how sad he is there.
Yeah.
He's sort of got his arms crossed. He's like, it's just.
Yeah, look at it. Just, I mean, it's so simple. Oh, he doesn't have, all he has is eyes, and just look at just the slight slant of the eyes makes it seem like, oh my God, look at what he's been through so far. Yeah, and we don't know what his or her actual goal is in this game because, the demo we played started where you sort of just roll outside your front door and you don't go back in your front door. So you're obviously on a mission to go find something or someone or something. Yeah.
I wonder if it's like like the family's moved on and you're like one of those talking dogs from the movies in the 80s.
Yeah.
Make their way back.
I like you could say Toy Story or the talking dogs.
Sure.
The talking dogs work.
I like this. There are these moments where you get on a sort of a barrel or whatever and you have to sort of keep going in a certain way.
Yeah.
There are ways you can kind of get in a stuck place where you can't progress any further. You've got to backtrack, and this is actually from one of the sequences we played.
Yeah,
this was
definitely.
super fun.
Yeah, it is interesting too how everything. I just love the idea that like the most mundane things become the obstacles in the game. Like this is just a flower pot and an old watering can and a pile of leaves, but this becomes the puzzle that you want to solve moving forward. And I don't know. I think just like we said, like obviously we've seen some amazing games at E3. We're going to see things we love, like Dark Souls and Uncharted and Halo and Battlefront. But I love the fact that a publisher like EA can take time out of something like that and spend 10 minutes on something like this that just comes across as really unique and singular and sincere. And I don't know. I think I speak for most of us at IGN where I said this was one of those like really nice surprises so far of the show.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I feel like I'm going to be spending 100 hours in Fallout 4, 100 hours in Battlefront. I think I'll probably get as much enjoyment out of the 2 or 3 hours or however long I spend in this game.
Absolutely. Yes, thanks, Steve. Thank you so much. We are very excited for Unravel. It is coming to Xbox One, PS4, and PC sometime in 2016. We'll have more on that leading up to its release. And, of course, please stay here all week for everything E3 2015. You're already in the right place. IGN.com.